One time we offered a retreat in the state of Wisconsin for police officers, judge, members of correctional centers, jail keepers, and so on. We know they suffer very much. The policemen, they suffer a lot. They suffer at their workplace. They suffer when they go home. Because their work is very hard. They have to confront violence every day on the street and so on. And those policemen in America who commit suicide, who use their own guns to kill themselves, is more numerous than the number of policemen that was shot by gangsters. The number of policemen who use their own gun to shoot themselves is more numerous than the policemen who was shot by the gangsters. Inmates of prison, they have a lot of anger, a lot of challenge, of fear. And you don't know how. You only use your authority, and they always try to revolt against your authority. So their life is like hell. So we practice listening to all of them many days, so that they can tell us all their suffering, their hardship. And you can imagine a retreat where police officers and members of prison correctional centers learn how to walk slowly, breathing in and out. It's very hard for them to do so. But they must learn. They must learn in order to release the tension, the violence, the frustration that has been accumulated in them for a long time. It's difficult retreat. But we succeeded. We succeeded. If correctional centers have not been a success, because the prisoners do not know how to do it. They have a lot of violence and suffering in them. They don't know how to take care of prisoners and people they have to take care. They are called peace officers, but they don't have peace inside. And that is why I think we have to train them. To train them to breathe, train them to relax, to train them to release the violence, the fear, the anger in them. So that they can look at the prisoners with the eyes of compassion. They can listen to them. They can talk to them with loving kindness. Otherwise, how can they help them to transform, to correct? And that is the reason why correctional centers have not been a success, although the intention is very good. So what is attractive concerning this teaching, this philosophy, is that first of all, you don't have to refer to God and the abstract rule written in heaven. You can determine by yourself what is right, what is wrong, based on your intelligence. You can include the animals. You can have love for animals. You are not too rigid. You can be flexible. And you don't have to punish. You don't need to punish people, because punishing people will bring more suffering. There's already enough suffering. You don't have to inflict more suffering. So it's very compassionate. But the weakness of the system is that they have not seen the connection between suffering and happiness. The interbeing between the mud and the lotus. They have not seen the goodness of suffering. And in the teaching of the Buddha, we know that suffering is a kind of mud that can bring about lotus flowers. And suffering can instruct us a lot. And therefore, suffering is also a noble truth. There's one of you who asked if war is the mud, if we need war in order to have peace, should we accept war? The answer is that we already have had enough war in ourselves, around us. We don't need more war. With the war that is already going on in us and around us, in our family and in our society, we have plenty of mud already. We don't need another war. First of all, they don't know that suffering plays a certain role. That suffering and happiness is a matter of the mind. The other day we spoke of hiking. Hiking is a pleasure for many of us. To climb the mountain, to do the hiking is a great pleasure. But there are those who think of us as crazy. It's much better to stay home and watch television, because hiking, climbing the mountains, like a lot of hardship. So something that is a pleasure for someone can be suffering for another person. So how can you define pleasure and suffering? There are those of us who do humanitarian work and who take a lot of pleasure doing the work, helping poor people, hungry children, and so on. We get a lot of joy. But there are those who think that, they don't like to do that. Doing that will not bring them happiness. They prefer going to a summer resort, spending time in luxurious hotels and so on. In this retreat, I have two attendants. One is a 15-year-old novice who grew up in the United States of America. And he had been a vegetarian for many years before he wanted to become a monk, a novice monk. He's 15 now. The other novice is a grown-up person who graduated in America and who has worked for 7 years in America. He was a stock broker. He got a lot of money. He knows what is to live, how, what is the pleasure to live in a luxurious hotel, like Holiday Inns, spending time at expensive places. But finally he decided to become a monk, because to become a monk brings him more peace and happiness and relaxation. And become a monk, you have to wake up at 4:30 every morning, not only during the 21-day retreat, all year round, to do sitting meditation, to do things that as a businessman you don't have to do. You take care of the garbage, you sweep the floor, you cook for the brothers. And yet, it brings much more happiness and peace and joy and relaxation to him. That is why he made the decision very quickly to abandon all that. Hilton Hotel, Holiday Inns, all kind of things. So if you look, we say that, well, which is happiness? Living in Hilton Hotel is happiness, or waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning is happiness? So it depends. So happiness and suffering is a matter of the mind more than the objective reality. And that utilitarianism does not know. It does not know that suffering and happiness are. Without this one, the other one cannot be. Without the mud, there cannot be lotus. And because of that, they don't know what we call the goodness of suffering. Suffering is sometimes good. It helps open our eyes, and we can learn a lot from suffering. And if we have got understanding and compassion, because we have suffered. And if you try to always run away from suffering, how can you grow up as a good person with understanding and compassion? And without understanding and compassion, how can you be happy? Even if there is a lot of money and power, so on. So consequence, what kind of consequence do you want? Money, power, sex, fame. But if you are caught by fear, anger, sorrow, and all of that cannot bring you happiness. So consequences, what kind of consequences? The Buddha said the consequence should be ill-being. You feel ill in your body. You feel ill in your mind. And that is ill-being. And because you have practiced wrong thinking, wrong view, wrong speech, that is why you have that kind of ill-being in you. Even if you have a lot of money, a lot of high position, and with that ill-being in you, it does not mean anything. You cannot be happy. Well-being. You have to wake up at 4:30, but you feel wonderful. Well-being. You feel light in your mind. You don't have to worry at all. You follow the monastic community and you accept everything. You build brotherhood, sisterhood, and you help organize retreats for people to come and profit from the teaching. You will get a lot of well-being. So well-being cannot be defined by consequences like wealth, fame, power, sex, and so on. So when we speak of consequences, we ask the question, what kind of consequences and for whom? Utility is utility for whom? The person who has invented the word consequentialism, who has coined the term, is a British lady. Her name is Elizabeth Anscombe. She's a very devout Catholic. She follows the theory of the divine command. She said that there are things that you cannot do no matter what. That is why she opposed to the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. When President Truman dropped the bomb, she was only 20 years old, a student. The first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. 140,000 people died right after, and many continue to die after that. And Japan has not surrendered after the first bomb. On the 7th, it was dropped on the 6th. On the 7th, Japan didn't surrender. On the 8th, Japan did not surrender. So on the 9th, they dropped another one on Nagasaki. Nagasaki is smaller, that is why 70,000 people died the first day. That was in 1945? Yes. 45. 11 years later, 1956, President Truman came to England, and Oxford University offered him an honorary degree. And Elizabeth was 31. She has grown up. And she staged a protest outside of her university. She brought a lot of young students to come, Catholic ones, and they kneel down on the ground and pray while President Truman was getting the honorary PhD degree from Oxford University. She wanted to protest that the act of dropping the bomb is wrong. Because she said that there are things that you cannot do no matter what, for peace or for whatever. You cannot boil a baby. You cannot drop a bomb and kill 140,000 innocent people. We know that in the Buddhist teaching, although in the appearance we see that it does not differ from utilitarianism, but there is a big difference. There is a trend of philosophy of ethics called deontology. Deontology. That is just opposite to consequentialism. There are absolute moral truth you have to follow, no matter whatever consequences may be. If not to lie is the rule, and then you don't have to lie, and you don't have the right to lie. You have to stick to that. Absolute moral rules, no matter what. Killing is wrong, even if killing can save one person, like in the case of Mary and Jody and Mary. If you kill Mary, you can save Jody, and if you don't, and then both of them will die. So according to this, killing is wrong, no matter what. So it's very inflexible. Immanuel Kant, that German philosopher, is on this side. He said that to lie is wrong. You don't have the right to lie, no matter what. So the theory of the God command is like that. There's something that you cannot do, no matter what. There is also a trend of philosophy of ethics called virtue ethics. It's like honesty, compassion, tolerance. They are virtues, and you just stick to these virtues and act. You don't think of consequences. You just believe in these virtues, and you behave as a virtuous people, no matter what consequence will come. And we also have the divine command theory. And these three trends of philosophies of ethics are in the opposite of consequentialism. And the term, as I have said, was coined by Elizabeth Anscombe. And when we look back at the Four Noble Truths, what can we see? Of course, the Buddha's teaching is very flexible, because Buddhism is very free from dogmas. We have begin with saying that we need an ethic that is free from dogma. Because in the teaching of Buddha, we know that we should not be caught in attachment to views. We should not be caught in the kind of dualistic thinking and dogmas. Because the teaching of the Buddha is emptiness, is interbeing, is non-attachment to view, is freedom. That is why there's a lot of freedom, flexibility. Of course, the teaching of the Buddha do not go along with these two rigid teaching. But the teaching of Buddha does not go like the teaching of utilitarianism either, because of the notion of happiness and suffering, interbeing between happiness and suffering, the doctrine on the goodness of suffering. All of that change. And we know that the path leading to the well-being begins with right view. And right view you don't got from anywhere except by ourselves, by the practice of mindfulness, concentration, and insight. Mindfulness is the starting point. You are mindful. You are mindful of what? You are mindful of the suffering that is in you and around you. You are mindful. And you think, you know that there must be some kind of action that can transform that suffering in you and around you. And you practice looking deeply with compassion, with concentration, in order to find it out, the kind of right action that can lead to the transformation of suffering. And you need to understand suffering in order to find it out what kind of action. So right here, what is right here is not determined really by the consequence. Right here is determined by your mindfulness, your concentration, and your insight. Because mindfulness, concentration, and insight is a backbone of the Buddhist teaching. And when we have a collective insight, and that will help us see the mutual path that will lead to the cessation of suffering, not only for one person, for all of us. So please reflect on this. The path of the Buddha is the middle path. The path that is not caught either by the idea of consequence, nor the idea of rigid goodness, because we know that goodness and good and evil are not objective reality. Good and evil is a product of our mind, like birth and death, like a being and non-being. They are notions created by our mind. Reality, nirvana, transcends all kinds of notions, including the notion of being and non-being. I want to share with you a practice of healing that called oil pulling. Oil pulling. In the Chinese saying, we say that disease, sickness come to us by the way of the mouth. And that is about the fifth mindfulness training, consuming. Bệnh tùng khẩu nhập. All kind of sickness enter our body by the way of the mouth. And that is why we have to practice mindful eating. But in India, in the medical tradition of Ayurveda, it is possible to help the sickness come out from the way of the mouth. if they come from the way of mouth into our body, it is possible to help them to go out. Bệnh tùng khẩu xúc. And Dr. Karash proposed that we use oil in order to rinse our mouth. You use sesame oil, sunflower oil, and rinse your mouth. It's very easy, and I have been doing that. It has helped me a lot, and some of our brothers and sisters in the community also do that. And some of you may like to try. In the morning, upon waking up, you use 1 tablespoonful of oil, sesame oil, any kind of oil. But we prefer sunflower oil, sesame oil, and put into our mouth. And we use our tongue in order to help circulate that oil around the mouth. You use your tongue in order to swish the oil, to have the oil penetrate deep into every area of the mouth. And you may like to chew the oil, And it should take 20 minutes. From 5 minutes to 20, but if you want to heal quickly, 20 minutes is better. And the minimum time they use is 20 minutes, sometimes 25. And it may be quite pleasant. And that moment of 20 minutes is a kind of dialogue, communication between the tongue and all the organs in the body. According to Chinese and Indian medicine, the tongue represents the whole body, and the state of the tongue represents the state of the whole body. A good doctor just look at your tongue and know how well you are. And on our tongue there are sections that correspond with every organ in the body. There's an area that corresponds to the lungs, another area corresponding to the digestive system, one place corresponding to the heart. And during our gargling, our chewing, our swishing the oil, there will be a communication between the tongues and the organs in the body. So if during that time you are aware of your body, you touch your body, you touch your lungs, you touch your stomach, you are helping with that kind of dialogue. The oil may be tasty. To me it is tasty, and it brings out the saliva. And the mixing of saliva and the oil will bring very good result. The first thing that happens is that there are antioxidants in the oil that will penetrate into the body by the way of the tongue. You keep it in your mouth, but there is interaction between the oil and the body. In the oil there are antioxidants, like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin B and C, etc. And while you are swishing the oil in your mouth, these elements penetrate into your body by the way of the tongue, below the tongue. And they support the beneficial microflora everywhere in the organs. They are telling that you have the support, we are sending you support. And so the microflora in the mouth and in the organs in our body begin to come up to the mouth. And bacteria and toxin will come out and will be trapped into the oil. During that time, there's a kind of stimulation, encouragement. And the bacteria in the mouth, they will be clean and they will be trapped into the oil. And also the toxins. The toxins here are the bacteria's embryons that will be very toxic to the body. And when they look into the microscope, they see bacteria swimming in it with the toxins. So we should not swallow the liquid because it is toxic, especially after 10 or 15 minutes. It's very toxic. There is a continuous communication between the mouth and the whole body. And the tongue plays the chief role. And we know that the population of the flora in the mouth is more numerous than the population of France and Germany together. And those microorganisms like Streptococcus mutans and Lactobacillus acidophilus, they are mainly responsible for the plaque. They are sensitive to the oil. They will be removed little by the oil. And after a week or so, rinsing the mouth with the oil, your teeth will be white and more firm. That is the first thing that you notice. And right after the first rinsing with the oil, you have the feeling of well-being in your mouth. It's so clean. There's so many bacteria and toxins in the mouth are absorbed, are caught, are trapped into the oil. And when you spit out, it's milk white. It's no longer yellow. And that's full of toxins, poison. You have to clean, and you have to rinse your mouth several times and brush your teeth with toothpaste. And the best moment to do it is in the morning. And there are those who do it twice a day before they go to sleep. Dr. Karash, he healed himself from chronic blood disease. He healed himself from a 15-year-old arthritis. He presented this method in front of an assembly of healers, of doctors in Ukraine, those specialists on circulation, on the heart, on cancer, and so on. So this is a very, very simple way of healing. There are many diseases that cannot be healed by surgery, and by powerful antibiotics can be healed by this. And you need 2 days from 2 days to 2 years in order to heal all of them. And there was a survey by a daily newspaper in India. They interviewed more than 1,000 people who have tried that method. And up to 89 people responded, answered that they have healed at least one of the disease, one or more diseases. Only 11% say that there's no effect. I think that they have not done it right. So this is a process of desintoxication. And it's very non-violent. There's no side effect at all. And according to Dr. Karach, life expectancy of those who know how to bring out the toxin can be very long, very high. You can live up to 140 years, 150 years. Yeah. So Thầy told a novice that he's going to live until he's 140. And there will be many 21-day retreats to come. So any of you who would like to try, maybe you want to start tonight before you go to sleep. Sesame oil is available in every hamlet. My attendant, the one who was the stock broker, he helped me to prepare this. And he may like to come and tell us how to get. And there is a spoon. I think 2 or 3 of these will be equivalent to a table spoon. And please keep this as a souvenir.